Yeah, because Johnny, I was like, dude, are you like is this conversation so bad that we're just like, this is over, dude. Time to stop because I can't take any more of this.
It's even worse than
Me
that.
too.
Only joking.
I
Yeah,
missed
so
something.
where were we? Oh, Brian was just saying, was the conversation really that bad that you needed to
Oh,
shut the
shit.
podcast down so soon? But yeah, so
Jonny, can I follow on from what we were just talking about?
yeah, yeah, go
When
ahead.
I got into youth mentoring and I was very much standing in my own way, it ties in nicely to what you're talking about with low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And I had a few conversations around it because I thought, and it sounds very bizarre, but I also think there's a realness to it because I think some of my motivations were misplaced. I've always had an innate drive to help people, and I think that low self-esteem and low self-confidence maybe fed into this thought. But as I was mentoring people, and Jonny, we've even spoke about it a little bit in terms of integrity, but I would really like there was one thought that I had that was I am helping people. I was working with kids in care. I was like, I'm helping people in far worse off positions than I am because I can't help myself. And it was like through those coaching sessions, it would hit me, and I would feel like, shit, man, I'm telling these people like, or guiding these people towards independent lives where they can embrace all of their past, not let it become all of their story, have it as a part of who they are, but use it as like a driver or this vehicle for change when they recognize they're not living the life that maybe they would want to. And that can mean a lot from the outside, but for me that means, can you live peacefully within your own body? And my peace was very much disturbed from a lot of those things, and I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel that the service that I was putting out there was as rewarding. It like there was some good moments in there, but maybe it kind of tied into that external validation when other people were doing well. I was like, yeah, I feel good because now I'm helping people. Um, so I think if you're getting into helping people, there may be a necessary part, but as soon as you start clocking on to like, where's the motivation for this? Is this extrinsic and outside of myself, or am I actually feeling gratified for the positive results that I'm getting from people? And I think there's nothing wrong with that. It feels good naturally to help other people and get them into better positions. But if that's the only motivation, I think then there's something that's a
Mm.
little bit off, coming from a place of perhaps lack. So I think that was just like my personal experience of what you guys were talking about just there. And Jonny, I noticed you popped your hand up at one point, so just want to circle back round to that thought.
Thank you for acknowledging that. I just have that bit sometimes where someone says something I agree
Bing.
with and I'm animated for a second, you know, because yeah, something lights up inside of me. But yeah, I think, and I say this lightly because it's not easy. Everything you've mentioned there is absolutely okay. We should strive for all of them. We should strive for something that makes us and others feel good, right? And always be checking ourselves, always be wanting others to push forward, and always be able to learn from them as well. And I think if someone is just coaching and they're using it as a form of self-neglect, which we could say is the opposite of self-improvement, right? Then when these people start to do well and we're not doing well ourselves, then that contrast between where we feel we should be and where we actually are really start to fuck with us, right? Because it's like, yes, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing for all these people. But the more I see that I'm doing it for them, the more I'm highlighting I'm not doing it for myself. And being able to juggle all of that and not attach to any of it, that's a tricky one. But like you say, if we can do all of that in a detached way, I think we have the right to experience all of those things on a regular basis. Yeah.
I think I totally agree that when you attach your own meaning to your meaning, when you attach your meaning to the results of other people, it's definitely a slippery slope. But I think kind of getting back to what Sam was saying, you know, when I think a lot of, not a lot, but if you're getting into the idea of coaching and helping others, it's a distraction from yourself. And I think it's easier to help other people than it is to help yourself, because you can't look in the mirror and be like, oh man, I do not like what this is, and I don't know how to fix it, and it's going to be really hard to fix. And let me just go help Sam or Lars or Johnny.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's they've got problems. I don't have
yeah,
problems, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point there. Being able to like hold the mirror up for yourself is way more challenging than being the mirror for somebody else. Um,
yeah. And I think that's why so many men struggle in conversations like this, because they know that that thing, the mirror, is inevitable at some point, right?
mm,
So it's very easy as well to convince yourself, and be very careful with my wording here. I believe all men have a level of stoicism in them, but I believe a lot of them are acting on it in a tainted way, where they're convincing themselves of things. Stoicism, there is no convincing yourself. You just are those things, right? And that's why, yeah, I'd hope as we build this out, we can, hopefully start encouraging more guys when they first see this who would never dream of sitting down to talk about this with other men. I want those guys to start asking to be a member of this podcast or a guest on this podcast. I think that'd be a very, very cool aim.
I know. Yeah, yeah. Feel that. Got some people in mind already.
Awesome, awesome, man. Yeah, honestly, the more the better. Yeah, I'd love this. This is definitely a community thing. I don't want you guys to see this as something I'm leading. We're peers here. So yeah, yeah, let's make it grow. I think it'd be really, really cool.
Mm.
And
Mm-mm.
another awesome thing, we can chop this up and repurpose it for all your social media content. And now I'll take my coach's hat off again. But yeah,
Double whammy.
yeah, absolutely, man. I'll be doing the same, because when you watch it back, there's been so many gold nuggets of wisdom dropped here. And if you need a 15-second reel, a 1 minute reel, something like that, you've probably got 100 posts just in this podcast.
Fact.
Yeah, yeah. So let's play a little game.
Like games. What you got for us?
Give yourself 3 seconds and then honor the first thing that arises in your presence. And what came to mind? What comes up in you?
Curiosity. Always, I found, and this was getting back to your original question of what brought me um to this particular podcast is, one, I've never done something like this before. And two, I'm genuinely curious about things, and genuinely curious to hear how other people have uh, either experienced things or how they see the world. Um, because I love, there's a great phrase that teachers are the greatest thieves. That, and I was, full disclosure, I was a high school teacher for 7 years back here in the States. I taught U.S. history and government.
Cool.
And when you're planning out lessons, obviously you want to work smart and not hard. And that's kind of true in any situation, right? So you're always looking for lesson plan ideas to like pillage from someone that, a colleague that you might have known. And I lost my train of thought again. What was I saying?
About the teacher and working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I was talking about that. Oh man, completely blew it here. Sam and Lars, throw me a lifeline. Where was I going?
um,
Well, you started with curiosity.
yeah,
Yes, yes. Curiosity. Ah, yes. And I like seeing how other people approach situations, and then I synthesize that into my own kind of unique way of either engaging in the world or whatnot. And so yeah, that idea of synthesis is a key component of curiosity. It's the result of curiosity, I think. So that was my 3 second word.
I don't know if I could beat that answer, but that was really cool. Yeah, and I love it how it's just boom, came straight out.
We're not in a competition here, Johnny, by the way.
I
There's
know.
no winner or loser in these conversations.
We're all winners here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little, yeah. So Lars, what about you?
First word that comes to mind in 3 seconds,
Yeah.
flow state.
All right.
That's what came to mind for me.
That's another juicy one right there.
As
Would you
soon
like?
as you said, okay, I'll give you 3 seconds, first thing that comes to mind, I was like, being pressed flow state. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Nice.
because that's what I've been experiencing since the very start of this conversation. And I know it happens a lot throughout the day. And with typically with conversations like these, or in general, when people sit down and have a chat, you can be genuinely interested in someone, and yet still, how easy will you drift off in your own mind and be like, okay, so, well, I still got that to do, and I still got to prepare that for. And I'm having none of that right now because I'm so fully into this, and when you're there and when you're experiencing it, and that's very powerful because the past is not there, future doesn't exist. You're like fully in the moment, and yeah, I've still now, but throughout this whole conversation, I've been just fully locked in, fully zoomed in. So that was the first thing that came to mind for me.
Amazing.
Nice.
And
Gents, if I could ask you all a question, speaking of this flow state and being mindful and present, what are strategies that you all use to help your clients practice mindfulness? And I'm not talking like, sitting with symbols and incense and all that, like pragmatic
yeah,
mindfulness.
that
Excellent question, that is, man. I guess to the practical stuff as well.
yeah. Who would like to answer that one first?
I
I'll
mean,
give it.
I have answers, but I want to hear everyone else's.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the exact reason I named my business Pragmatic Presence was due to we need to synthesize meditation into practical matters and vice versa. We need to make meditation practical, and people need to learn how practical meditation is. And so
Hmm.
for me, it's about what I do through the first 6 weeks of the programming is it's all about reestablishing your brain's connection with meditation. So without giving away the whole program and boring you with that, yeah, it's a lot of challenging people, testing their limiting beliefs, reprogramming them, and just overhauling their lifestyle step by step by step. So by the end goal, they're like, holy shit, I'm meditating 30 minutes a day now, and all these things in my life I'm now doing, and it was effortless. So it's, I guess, hard to put in a nutshell. But yeah, I try and remove all of the BS. I only go into the metaphysical aspects of things with people when they've meditated roughly 1,000 hours, because that's when I feel those conversations can really be had. But I think from my own experience and people I work with, it's not like I'm gatekeeping it, but I feel it's irrelevant to really truly addressing those things until we've developed a good level of self-awareness in those fields.
It's just a game of levels, man. I think that's what we can apply to when it comes to meditation. It's like training and nutrition, right? Someone that has never tracked calories before, or is like completely unaware of
Yeah,
nutrition, are you gonna get him on this like bro split diet where he has to track his macros to every single gram, and you're gonna give him like carb cycling where you're gonna do like 3 high carb days and then lower carb days, and then he has to take this supplement stack and hey, we're going to make some super complicated meals here because I believe this is the optimal food selection for competing at the pro level. You're trying to get your client to a level 10 when he's not even trained for a level 1. And I think that's very similar with training, but also with meditation, is people steer away from it and they shy away from it because they immediately go to that level 10. They're like you said before, or what Brian said, they're envisioning this thing of, oh, meditation. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't want to be sitting there in some fucking lotus position with my eyes shut and then singing things and have smoke blowing through the living room and all that stuff. While the most basic form of meditation, and even more advanced guys, it always starts with that, is simply sitting down and taking a couple of deep breaths and just becoming aware of your breathing. That's
Yeah,
where it starts. That's like
absolutely.
the underlying base for all meditation. And if you look at these guided meditations as well, I've been working with a thing called the military method, specifically for falling asleep faster. But even that one, like you check out these multiple sources, these multiple guys, and it all goes back to the real source, which stems from Buddhism. To be honest,
Yeah,
those guys have kind of pioneered with the whole meditation thing. But
yeah,
it simply came down to sitting down and starting to pay attention to your own breathing. And then all the awareness and the mind awareness comes from that. It comes from down regulating the body first, and now the brain follows, and all these thoughts start to come in, and that's when you get into it.
yeah. So I guess if we're leaning more into the science side of things, I guess what I would say is in my approach is I give people what they want, and then through that show them what they actually need.
Love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's you can't force someone to cook a like it's like what Lars had said, getting them from a level 1 to a level 10. You can't force someone to cook an extravagant meal when they don't even know how to chew their own food.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then as they learn those cooking skills, they realize there's tastier recipes out there, and they want to
Yeah.
learn. Right. But yeah, that's what I try and do. What about everybody else?
Building off, if I may, building off of what Lars was saying about sitting still and breathing. I mean, that's like the best place to start, obviously. Another a small uptick from that would be, and this is something that I've used for people who are super busy minded, is sit and count as many sounds as you can in 1 minute. You do that right now, and it's like you're not thinking about papers, you're not thinking about tasks. You're like, how many sounds do I really hear? And then you hear all sorts of weird things. Like you
Yeah,
hear the creak in your house, you hear the birds singing outside, you hear the drip, 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 and it's like it's it's trance inducing,
yeah.
and it's super simple to do. So,
That is what meditation should always be, is simple. Like the more my own meditation journey has evolved, the simpler it gets. Just
mm,
like with the powerlifting, whatever it is, like you earn your stripes, you get to a level where you just know all the other bullshit and fluff doesn't matter. These are the boxes I need to tick. As long as I persistently do those, I'm going to keep getting better at this one thing. And yeah, personally, I do guided meditations, but that's just to get people into a practice of being able to sit down, shut the fuck up, and focus on their own breathing. It's exactly that, yeah.
yeah,
And that, what about you, Sam?
Similar, well, to all of the suggestions, but Brian in particular use a technique called the 5 4 3 2 1, which is tuning into your senses of the body. So it's 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can smell. Sorry, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste.
that's
And
cool.
as the
Yeah,
degree, I
Never
think,
heard of that.
mate,
that's,
try it, give it a go.
yeah,
Personally, it kind of draws you into your environment, and you are very much aware of what's there. But in grades, you come closer into your body, because then you're thinking, what the hell is this taste in my mouth?
yeah,
Like,
Yeah, yo,
and you're just
yeah,
like,
having that deeper sensory kind of evaluation, I think it takes what I had said to the next level, but it's still really simple. So like that's simple. Got to keep things simple. I love it.
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
Simplicity is key, man. It's the end.
Especially, yeah, especially in the realms of what we discuss, right? Like spirituality, consciousness, all these things. Like I say, from what I've seen, even on my own journey, I tried to complicate everything. I went in so many different directions. They all humbled me and led me back to the simplest practice every time, right? And I'd go around in a circle. It would always come full circle. And by the time I'd repeated that the 10,000th time, I'd always be just there, present, silent, even more dumbfounded than the last lesson I'd been given. And yeah, just repeat process of that.
It's like the less
I
you
think there's
learn, the
a
more, the less you, but the more you learn, the less you know. That'll
Exactly.
simple adage. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And everything else that comes with that, that freedom in less points to prove. But I guess that's just a story for another day because I'd have been going off on a tangent there. But like you say, that simple approach simplifies everything. Has that knock-on effect, doesn't it? Like you say, you listen more, you speak less, you taste your food more. Those things become more and more your natural state the more you develop them, right?
I think what you just said there kind of sparked a question in my head about listening more. And I feel like what is a strategy for us to help encourage other people to learn how to listen more and speak less, mouth closed, ears open.
You
You
know
know,
what
like
you know what I do with clients is like this might sound familiar to some of you if you've had that discussion, but what I get them to do is talk to yourself until you are sick of talking to yourself and then hear what you had to say.
That's
Keep
brilliant.
keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that. And then you'll always see where you're coming from your perspective, but also from the perspective of watching yourself. And slowly over time, you'll realize a lot of those things we think we're communicating are maybe distorted, or maybe shouldn't have said it that way, or we just don't need to be communicating it anyway. From what I've seen personally, it's been a great practice for a lot of people, myself included, for many reasons, but that's one of them.
so you record yourself speaking as
Yeah.
long as you can, and then you listen back to it.
Yep. By the time you've done that 100 times, you're probably ready to listen to other people more.
I
I
would,
can believe
I
that,
would
man.
assume so,
Yeah.
Just
unless
getting
you're a
everyone down.
narcissist.
Yeah.
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 If you're a narcissist, you'll have that thing on loop.
Yeah. And that's what I find works for me and others personally. Yeah, because it's just you're honoring what is going on inside of you. You're also listening to your own needs as well. And you're just removing a lot of debris that's in there.
You know what I found, Johnny, when that was kind of a thing that came through PB. Well, also with my coach that I'm working on for the training and nutrition side of things. So I've got PB that is, doing the business coaching and all that, and then I'm working with some guys for my training and diet and all that stuff. And these guys were in the habit of sending those voice notes as well. I had never done that before, always text messaging or one-on-one speaking to people, but never sending personalized voice notes. And what you said there about hearing yourself talk, the first time I sent a voice note and I was like, oh, wait a minute, let me just listen to myself. Let me just listen to myself here. Put it on. Jesus, that is awful. And yeah, and it got me thinking along the same lines with what you said is like actually listen to yourself. And yeah, it's a stupid thing just listening to the own voice notes you sent, but that got me thinking as well of like, oh, Jesus, that sounds awful, man.
Yeah,
So
it's
and you get kind of automatically in this position of, well, that's you, that's your voice, that's what you just said. Um, but like you said, it's not that you come from a position of self-hate or you need to hate yourself or beat yourself up about you don't like your own voice. It's more of like, well, haven't I listened to my own crap for enough now? The self-talk is always there. I'm not going to leave myself. I'm in here 24/7. So it's
yeah,
actually a relief to stop, focusing on my own bullshit and be available for the world.
exactly. And it's just a really good way to exhaust the ego.
Yeah,
And
it is.
and also I find as well that because when I'm talking now, right, yes, I feel like I'm speaking with conviction, but as we all know, if we watch back what we've said today, we will see it from a slightly different perspective as to when we say it in the moment, no matter
True.
how much we agree with those words, right? So again, it's just really healthy, I think, to have that talk therapy with yourself, to be able to say what you need in the moment, unfiltered, and then also be able to hear yourself, like I guess in hindsight or from the third person perspective. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
what you're basically doing with that tactic is, I mean, what you just described now, how you do it and how you advise it to clients, you're basically putting your self-talk like literally out there in a very practical and very real, even a somewhat confrontational manner by literally recording yourself, literally talking to yourself, hearing yourself talk. And I think Sam was mentioning something about how that, what was it, the 5 4 3 2 1 technique, where you take like all different sensory um, stimuli, so smelling, hearing, tasting, and that's just one way of putting your self-talk into a really real auditory stimulus.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Also think on the self-talk element, it really connects you internally of what's going on. And as you said, Johnny, you can, in reflection, think about whether it's useful or not. But I found in doing that exercise myself, if I close my eyes, that self-talk just like elevates just another notch and it comes through much more naturally than if I'm looking around and kind of searching and thinking, oh, what am I going to say today? Or it's got better with practice and it has come much more of a flow. But when I've closed my eyes, I'm just like, there's my brain activity and it just spits out.
That's
Yeah.
why a lot of the meditation practices will also have you closing your eyes, right? I know that's how the military method works. So you start with breathing, which goes into the first. That's your very body awareness. That's like the actual feeling of air coming in through the nose and CO2 um, being blown out. And then you start feeling this kind of muscle relaxation. And then, if you work with an app or there's tons of options now, but then it tells you to close your eyes. And so what it does is it takes away one piece of sensory stimuli. So the focus on other stuff, like your self-talk, for example, becomes more intense now. And yeah, that's always something that tends to work, I think, when you switch off certain pieces of sensory stimuli, because that's what they also call, why they call it sensory overload. That's why what happens when you get panic attacks, or people that had severe trauma. They Let's just use the practical example of war fighters, of veterans. They It's one thing to look at an action movie, or for people to look at a documentary and feel a bit uncomfortable with seeing war and the horrors of war on a television screen. But it's a completely different thing when you're in that zone, tasting war, like literally tasting blood, smelling war, the smell of burnt skin and shrapnel, and then the noise. We have the auditory stimulus, bombings, women screaming, bullets flying around. You got the visual, like the that's what they call sensory overload, right? So I think meditation, in a big sense, is just having all these stimuli, switching things off, and really dialing in so that you can just focus on one thing, but fully present and very intensively. And that just naturally calms the whole brain and the whole body down, which obviously works hand in hand. So
I like what you're saying there about the military's approach to the meditation. Sounds very similar to the Buddhist practice of Vipassana. And
oh yeah,
like
it
you
all
say,
dates
there's
back
still,
to that Buddhism.
yeah, and like you say,
That's the
that,
source, man.
yeah, absolutely is, yeah. And I find all meditation techniques, I'm sure you guys do, the majority of them all originate from a similar place. Yeah. It's just a new person representing it in a slightly new way. But yeah, I feel right. I'm going to have to shoot off soon. What I would love to do is hear one big win in personal development you've all had in the past week. This can be anything, or anything that it doesn't even have to be development, but something you'd like to share. I'll do the same as well.
Jonny, can I start this one off? And it's going to be two birds, one stone. And
Absolutely, right? Yeah,
I'm
go
going to share
ahead.
my word that came to me in 3 seconds as well.
Shit, we did not. Sorry, we.
That's all right, man. We got into a great discussion around mindfulness. That was a brilliant question. Again, the pragmatism around that very important part of self-development. But it ties into something we were talking about a little bit earlier as well. Brian, you mentioned like the want to make money, and money was the one that came to me. And recently, what I've been like working through, and I say that with a pinch of salt because I actually haven't been working through it. I've been thinking about it. And what I've recently seen through coming through propane business is you think, say, and do. And money is one of those things that kind of sat in the background. And I've always had, thankfully, like Bank of Mum and Dad have been there to help out at times when I've needed them. And there's an element where my relationship with money is a little bit loose. And I sometimes think, well, if I'm able to like make a lot of money, what difference does that make if I can't manage the little money that I've got right now? And I'm learning to kind of like, well, my aim, and I think the next stage from the thinking is the saying, making the intention to change my thoughts and behaviors around money of like how I manage it. And so much of that is coming through with propane business and like looking after a business. So Lars, you mentioned earlier on, it's a personal development as much as it is a business development, but you put so much into this to deliver the best service possible for your clients. You need to be on top of your own shit as well. So I think
Absolutely.
my win is recognizing that, understanding that I'm not 100% there yet, but believing that I can get there.
Amen to that. Thank you for
Cool
sharing that.
stuff.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I think Sam has a great segue for kind of not necessarily a big win, but something that I've noticed is that um I think for the past 11 years I've been kind of coasting through my business, and like just like things just happen. Like
Yeah.
kind of my business has been successful to a point, not simply because of it, it almost seems like it's like the universe has just given me things in a way. And that sounds
It
horrible.
does.
I'm very blessed that it's happened that way. But I think this working through this course and being a part of this community has made me more and consistent with action and clarity of action. I felt like I was kind of like, and I told you this, I think earlier, Jonny, about being in a rowboat in the middle of the ocean with no direction of where to go. And I feel like I've gotten more focused and I'm consistently applying action. You know, some of the things that we've talked about before of like this idea of thinking and saying, but like I've actually been doing things consistently. And that I'm very proud of myself for, because it's not something that I have um the marketing and stuff. It's something that I've always felt it's very inauthentic, but this course has helped shift that mindset into something that's like it's not about me, it's about me helping other people, and being able to share things. I'd be holding my gift back to other people, so that's being consistent in action with clarity has been my biggest, I'd say, win.
And that's a
That's
massive win, man.
fucking awesome.
That
Yeah.
is a massive
Thanks.
win if you get to that point.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
like you, when I first met all of you, you've all made the same decision. Which again, I don't say that I haven't gone through the same thing, but you know, when I've met all of you very recently, you've all just got to that point where you're like, right, I'm going to do this fucking thing. And it's so cool to see. My
Mm.
my words that came up after the 3 seconds was thank you to all of you, honestly, because
Mm.
for me to be able to work with you guys on such deep levels, seeing you not only want to improve your lives, but the lives of everyone in your lives is fucking amazing. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
I can only say thank you back, Jonny. I mean, you've been a pivotal figure in this whole thing for all of us, I think, and in a way, you're the one that brought us together here today. So we share your gratitude, and it comes back just as much, man. It's a mutual thing.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm sat with peers here. This isn't my podcast, right? This is an equal thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that what you just said, Lars, about the gratitude for this podcast. I think the concept of gratitude, I think this is a good way to kind of end the session today. The more we can constantly remind ourselves how much we have to be grateful for, I think that is a powerful manifestation of energy into the universe when you can say, I'm grateful for X, Y, or Z, whether it's I am grateful for being able to breathe today versus I'm grateful that I have 100 clients and my business is doing well. Like whatever it is, no matter how small or big it is, I think that's something that has taken a long time for me to like recognize.
And
So
actually mean
hopefully
it
that
too.
helps you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the important piece.
And
The
actually mean
meaning.
it too. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
that's one thing I got into when you see a lot of these coaches now, and it's kind of becoming a popular thing where you've got a lot of coaches or on social media as well, spreading this message of, hey, if you want to be successful, you should do gratitude, daily gratitude. And I do think some people are getting into all this stuff. It's the same thing with the 5 a.m. club, the cold showers in the morning, all these things have their place, and I do some of them. But typically that's what you see with social media as well, right? Because guru A, B, and C and D all say that you need to do this thing. People just go into it and, oh yeah, well, he's rich as fuck and he's jacked and he says I should be doing gratitude, so yeah, but that's what I'm gonna do then, right? And I think people then go in with a mindset of like, well, yeah, what am I grateful for? Well, I guess I should be grateful for having a roof over my head. Yeah, but do you actually mean that? Do you feel that? Do you actually feel what it would be like to not have a fucking roof over your head?
And that's the key
And
word right there. It needs to be embodied and felt, doesn't it? Absolutely. And
absolutely, man, that's where the power comes from.
and I think that's where a lot of these coaches or these cults, shall we say, whatever, like you said, the intention is good, but it's kind of the blind leading the blind, because a lot of these people don't know, or they're not tapping into that practice of gratitude or whatever it is on a regular. So yes, they're following the concept and the theory, but like you said, it has to be embodied. And
And
I
we all
guess,
were at that spot.
yeah. And I
Me,
really
you,
feel,
Brian,
yeah,
Sam, we were at that spot, right, where we were advising other people and then noticing, wait a minute, I'm a mess. I'm a mess, dude. I need to fix myself before
yeah,
I can fix anyone else. That's
yeah.
where I truly need to start. I need to go back to baseline.
And you know what I would really love to see? This is totally selfish, but we've got 1 minute to go. Don't worry, I won't take the whole minute. What I would love to see is more of this type of spirituality online, where people are truly taking it seriously. Not that it's taking the fun out of life, not that it's making them give up everything that they want in life, but they're truly developing themselves and taking it seriously and embodying the experiences they speak of. So the integrity matches the feeling, matches the message, matches the following, all that good stuff. Yeah.
I think the biggest problem in that whole process is the label. I think when you
Yeah.
say spirituality or religion, people are like, ugh,
Yeah. Yeah. And
but
you're so right.
it's just
Yeah.
a label.
Yeah. And people are
This
too
has been great,
identified with
gents.
those. So let's go smash those limiting beliefs and labels people have. Thank you, everybody, all of you, so much. I have another cool guy I think would like to join us next time as well. But again, let's
Oh,
Get them
yeah.
on board.
yeah, definitely. Thank you guys. I look forward to next time.